What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the College Sports Show here on the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel. She is Abby Schnable. I'm Noah Hiles, and Abby, a lot of college sports news in the area to get involved in, to start talking about, and I think the biggest is, of course, surrounding the biggest basketball player in town right now. Blake Hinson announced his return. Maybe not biggest in height, but biggest brand, biggest personality. And he made a big announcement on Tuesday, announcing that he's coming back for his senior season at the University of Pittsburgh, withdrawing from the NBA draft process. I want to start off this show by asking you, Abby Schnabel, are you surprised that Blake Hinson did come back to Pitt? Like, was this a big surprise for you, this move?
No, I don't think so. I think with the flexibility you have in today's basketball age to be able to test the process, I feel like he wasn't totally ready to go. Like I personally thought he could use like another year just to like really solidify himself. And I bet that some of the feedback he got at the combine from some teams, from his agent, just because, he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. But it's just I just don't think it's his time yet. And I'm sure a lot of people mentioned that. I'm sure that's the feedback he was getting. He's a I'm sorry, I'm chaos in the Schnabel house.
You're good. You're good. You're good. Keep rolling. You're doing great.
But yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think any chance you can get for a guy like Blake Hinson to be the star of the show, which he was this past season, but really it's his team this year. And I think he wanted to have that chance to kind of be the limelight, be in the limelight again, and also just like you really solidify his chances for a potential NBA spot next season. I just didn't think it was his time, so I wasn't surprised.
You see, I saw things from both ends where, yeah, I don't think his game's ready for the NBA. And I think that, yeah, like you said, he's clearly going to be the star at Pitt. And let's be real, he's one of the best players in the ACC this
Absolutely.
year. I mean, you have your tier one guys who are returning, your Filipowskis, your Baycotts, your Caleb Loves. But, like, Blake's not far from that. He's on that second wave with the Judah Minces and the Jeremy Roaches and of players of that ilk. And that's nothing to be scoffed at. He's going to be – every other coach in the ACC was sad to see that Blake Hinson was coming back. And that's good of your Pitt. However, I do look at certain things about his decision, and it makes me wonder how good of a year could he have that would outweigh his age. He's already 23 years old. He's turning 24 in December. So that means next year when he is a professional, he will be turning 25 during his rookie season. You have dudes in the NBA who are on their second, maybe even third contract by that time. I mean, they're talking about paying who are the two guys in Boston, Brown and Tatum, like $1 billion essentially, because they've played so long and proven themselves so much. So if I'm Blake, I'm thinking about that, where, yeah, you know what? It might not be the best time for my NBA stock, but am I going to come out of college and be in this exact same spot next year? And if so, maybe it would have been better for him to go to Europe or try his hand in the G League, or try to get an play well in the NBA Summer League and get a 7-day opportunity and make the most of it. But don't get me wrong, as someone who covers Pitt, Blake Hinson makes this team a lot more enjoyable to watch, and definitely a lot more enjoyable to cover as far as, an interview perspective. I'm happy to see him back. But I think that this wasn't as easy of a choice as a lot of people are
Yeah.
making it out to be, because there were a lot of things, I think, in the favor of him leaving Pitt, but him
Mhm.
coming back. And then another thing too is, people will point to Zach Edey returning, or Caleb Love staying in college basketball, or Armando Baycott coming back, or Filipowski. The thing with those guys is they're probably making really good money off NIL, which I don't
Mhm.
think Blake Hinson's making. I look, the average G League salary is around $40,000 a year. He's not making that in NIL. If he is, I will be shocked, because
The
I don't think any Pitt athlete is.
the other
So,
the other
so like he
difference.
didn't. I just want to wrap up. Like, he didn't come back like those other guys. Like Zach Edey can make more money playing at Purdue next year probably than he can as a professional, or close to it. Um, Blake's not in that camp. Blake came back to enhance his draft stock, and I think also because he loves Pitt and he wants to compete here.
The other difference with the Filipowski, Dickinsons, Edie's of the world, and Blake Hinson is that there's just not really that role for some of those bigger guys in the
Right.
NBA anymore. And so it's a wiser decision for them to stay because not only can they make more money, but also there's just the likelihood of them getting picked up by a team is not very high. Whereas I think Blake Hinson did have a chance. I'm not going to say that he's not like some of his other teammates who are going straight to the Europe route.
Yeah.
If any of them from this past season was going to go to the NBA, is going to go to the NBA, it's Blake Hinson. And I really don't think, other than not knock on wood that it doesn't happen, I anything but an injury. Like that's the only thing that can hurt his NBA chances for next year. I don't think him sticking around for another year hurts him at all. Yeah, maybe you can say, "Oh, well, Pitt's not may not go to the NCAA tournament this year, and he would have been a better pick having had that." But he still has that NCAA tournament experience, and the
Right.
way him and his agent should frame it is, "Look, I took another year to really develop myself a little bit more, even if it wasn't necessarily the best year for Pitt to have some postseason chances. It was the best decision for me." And then it also goes in, he was definitely a leader on that team, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he is the leader for this upcoming season. And I just think there are so many more pluses than minuses for him to come back for this final year. And also, I just love how this like starting five, how this lineup is starting to look as we really we talked about it last week, but more of the puzzle pieces have started falling. And I really like having a guy like Blake Hinson kind of being the guy we're centering that around, just because he does have the experience. He has the personality. He's so fun to watch. And I just think building a team around him is going to be fun for Pitt fans as well as us covering it.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, Abby, that you just hit on it. Where this is great for Pitt from a production standpoint. He's their leading scorer. He was their leading rebounder. And he's the oldest player on the team. Like those are very big things, like on the stat sheet. But this is a guy that you're going to build your team around. And also, when you're looking to build an entirely new team chemistry, you need a Blake Hinson.
Oh,
You need someone who, if you were to lose those four senior guards and then add Blake to that, you have a blank canvas.
Brand new
But
team.
you have a semblance of something from last year
Mhm.
with Blake and the twins and Federico and Will Jeffress, who was injured the whole year, but he was still around, and Dior, who was along for the ride, but just, as a practice player because he redshirted. So
Mhm.
you have a locker room that was like, you don't have Jamarius Burton or Nelly Cummings or Greg Elliott or Nike who can step in and be those vocal seasoned veteran leaders. And I'm not sure that will be Blake necessarily, but having your star player being able to be that guy that says, this is how we did it last year, and this is what worked. And to have those experiences and be able to be vocal and kind of rally the troops when needed, that's incredibly important when you're trying to usher in 3 freshman guards, a new big man to go along with an already experienced front court. There's so much talent on this team.
Absolutely.
But the big question is, how does it all gel?
Yeah.
My question for you, Abby, is Pitt a top 5 team in the ACC next year? Just looking around at who's coming in and what's already coming back, I feel like this Hinson thing might give them the edge there.
I like their chances, absolutely. I just think I'm hesitant to say absolutely just because there's so many unknowns. Like,
Right.
yeah, you have Henson, you have Fetty, you have the twins, but the rest of the team is pretty much an unknown. We don't know how they're going to do in college play. We've talked about how young they are in the past, and sure, you have Blake Hinson bringing up the age, which I didn't realize he and I were born in the same year, which is
Oh,
weird
yeah.
to think about. That I also turned 24 this year. But I don't know. I think I'm hesitant to say yes just because of the unknowns. But I mean, I like their chances. I really do. I like how they look. I like how they stack up against some of these other teams who aren't necessarily bringing back some of their star power. But I also think it comes down to how do they gel? How quickly do these freshmen adapt? And which is a great way to pivot to our next topic is who else do they get out of the transfer portal? Because
Right.
there's that one spot left. Is
Yeah.
Peyton going to fill it? Who is he going to fill it with?
And at this point, it's kind of tough to sell really anyone. But out of nowhere, we're recording this Thursday morning. Out of nowhere, Wednesday afternoon, so yesterday, it surfaced that Mike Sharavjamts, a.k.a. Mongolian Mike, that's his nickname. That's what he goes by. He's the first Mongolian basketball player to receive a Division I scholarship. He announced that Pitt is in his top 5 schools to transfer to. I believe it's Pitt, San Francisco, Nebraska, Indiana, and
I can pull it up super fast.
someone else. It's a very wide array of schools, which I found interesting. But out of nowhere, this kid from Dayton, he played 32 games last year, started 20, averaged just like over 5.5 points a game, like 2 rebounds, 2 assists. A very well-rounded player, a 6'8" wing, who has 3 years of eligibility. Abby, I want to get your thoughts on this simply because, I mean, this is certainly an intriguing prospect. You've seen him play last year, but is this what Pitt needs? Where does he fit here?
Yes. So just to reiterate, those top 5 were Indiana, San Francisco, Pitt, Nebraska, and Memphis.
Memphis, that's who I forgot. Sorry, Penny Hardaway. I apologize. Big viewer of the show.
Yeah. So I have seen him.
Same with Finley.
Yeah, Finley's.
Finley hears Penny Hardaway is like, what? We talking? We talking 95 Orlando Magic? No, sorry.
He's a big Magic fan, can't you tell?
Yes. Finley, get down.
I'm sitting on the floor. He can't get down. But okay. Yeah, so I have seen him play. I'm one of few people, I guess you could say, just because Dayton has a huge following. Dayton wasn't the team it was supposed to be this past season, but they did play Wisconsin in the opening round of the Battle for Atlantis, and I did get the chance to see him play. And first of all, they love him over there. Dayton fans, Dayton coaches, Dayton everything. And just in the A10, he's talked widely about. Like, he is a fantastic player to watch. His personality, he's so funny. Like, I thought he was funny. I don't know if that's the wide feeling about him, but I thought he was funny when I saw him in various press conferences, and various interviews I've seen of him. But I really enjoyed watching him play. He was coming up against a fairly experienced Wisconsin team, and I thought he held his own. Coming from A10 isn't necessarily mid-major, but it's not high major either. It's in that weird middle ground, and I just thought he knew what he was doing, and like he knew his role on the team, and he did it very well. But that leads to your next question is, I don't think Pitt needs a 6'8" wing right now. Yeah. We've talked about how they're pretty bogged down in the front court. They've got a lot of guys down there, and then especially with Blake Hinson coming back, you've got a wing already. I just don't really see the need for a guy like Mongolian Mike right now. Maybe if we're earlier in the transfer portal and we hadn't gotten why am I blanking on his name?
Zach Austin.
If we hadn't gotten Zach Austin, or if Pitt hadn't gotten Zach Austin, maybe that would be a great spot for him. But I just don't imagine he's coming in and getting that much playing time. You're already, like I said, backed up down there, and I don't think that's what he wants. I think he wants the playing time, and he's probably not going to get it at Pitt.
Yeah, that's how I looked at this. Excuse me, is I think the bulk of his recruitment from Pitt was viewed as Blake Hinson insurance, where if Blake, because Blake took this down to the wire. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, he waited until the day before the deadline to make any sort of announcement. Like, leading up to his decision, he's posting like Dragon Ball Z highlights on his Instagram story. I'm like, dude, are you coming to Pitt or not? So he made that announcement. So I'm sure like Pitt was probably wondering just a bit. And I think that Mike would have been a perfect fit. If Blake wasn't there, you plug and put him right in there. It's not the same player. This is a guy who I think is a more well-rounded basketball player, someone who could probably help with ball movement more than Blake could, maybe probably even a better defender. Definitely not the type of scorer that Blake Hinson is, though. But now with Hinson on the roster and guys like you look at the other wings, like you said, Zach Austin transferred in. You have Marlon Barnes Jr., a 3-star coming in out of high school. You have Will Jeffress, a guy who's been around for a couple of seasons, hasn't necessarily played the level that he was as a prospect, but has experience and knows the system and everything. I don't see, and like this is a kid who was close to the top 100 player in the country not too long ago. He's not going to come here to sit. And so that's where I stand on it. Where you look at some of those other teams, San Francisco, he could be a star there. Nebraska, he could be a star. I don't know about Indiana. I don't know about Memphis, and I don't know about Pitt. But I don't know. I just don't see the fit there. I mean, it would be an incredible depth move. But I think if Mongolian Mike came to Oakland, you're just adding to something that you already have in the sense where you have a lot of really young, talented players, and not all of them are going to see the court. So you're just adding to your list of people who are going to transfer out of your program next season.
And it goes back to what we've talked about probably on like 4 or 5 episodes since the season has ended, is they need an experienced guard.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, it's a tough sell, but that's what they need. And I don't know if they're going to get it. I would love to see if they did. I feel like a lot of the people that are still left in the portal now are guys who pulled out of the draft, which aren't necessarily looking for a spot to come
be a
in
6th man or a 7th man.
At best. And so I don't know if they're necessarily going to get it. That's what I would save my final scholarship for. But who knows? Maybe he decides he wants to come play for Pitt. That's of those schools, that's the closest one to Dayton. So maybe he wants to stay in the area ish. I don't know. It's going to be exciting. It's nice having another player to kind of watch to see where he's going to land.
It sure is. So before we wrap up the show, Abby, I just wanted to hit on one thing on the football side. Pitt announced 3 kickoff times yesterday. Wofford, the season opener at 3:30 p.m. West Virginia, the backyard brawl in prime time on ABC. That's my Gus Johnson impression.
Oh my God.
Even though he works for Fox. At 7:30 p.m., that'll be on the 16th of September. And then the season finale, home game, I should say. Boston College, 7 p.m. on Thursday night. I believe that's on November 11th or 16th, one of those two. And then the Notre Dame game had already been announced, 3:30 p.m. Abby, I just got to say, from an outsider, there's that notion that prime time means something to programs. You look, 3 of these 4 games announced with kickoff times already. You have ABC, ESPN, and NBC. Is this an indication that Pitt is becoming a nationally respected football brand again? And B, is this good for the Pitt football brand, being that it's going to be in front of national audiences more as opposed to just on the ACC network?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any negatives for these times. I see.
Well, I do because they're late. And
yes. I would prefer a morning, afternoon kickoff.
Yeah.
That's always how I've been. But I like the prime time for them. I think they are getting some respect after these past couple seasons where they have done really well. I think that's a good thing for them, not a great thing for us. Just because that drive back to Pitt after the game in Morgantown. Noah's ready. He's going to use his hotel points. He's already.
Yeah, I'm about to book that hotel as soon as we end this show. So,
so I do like it for them. I'm excited to see how many of their true ACC games land on the various networks. Like, obviously, we have Boston College, we talked about already, but some of these other ones, just because you do have that, the meteorites drama that's going on right now. But I think it's great for Pitt. I think it's great for the ACC. Against some of these, I wouldn't necessarily have put Pitt and Boston College on my top list of games I want to see on a major network. But it's a great opportunity for both programs, and I think Pitt is definitely the draw in that game.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Well, and that's the narrative behind that is that's Phil Jacovic's old school. So it's a revenge game. It's senior night for Pitt. Like that's the narrative there, and it's Cignetti's old school too. So that's an entertaining one, and I think the big one here to wrap all this up, because I see Finley probably needs to go outside here, and I think just the backyard brawl being in prime time. When you look at the other games on that week, I think Florida Tennessee is that week. I think there are other non-conference rivalry games that week. It just goes to show that like Pitt, West Virginia, what it did last year, being the first college football game of the year on College Game Day and everything, and the end result and just the spectacle that it was, reasserted itself as one of the best rivalries in college football. It's not Ohio State, Michigan. It's not UCLA, USC. It's not Texas, Oklahoma. It's none of those. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend it is, but it's not too far away from that. And it's got the history, and it's certainly now, because of the heartbreaking ending for West Virginia fans and the thrilling victory for Pitt fans, it's got the juice again. People are excited, and the players are now invested. And for this to be a primetime game in week 3 in Morgantown under the lights on ABC, I mean, this rivalry is completely back. And as someone who grew up watching it, attending the games, and covered the first one that had been played in over a decade, just this past fall, I can't be more excited to head down to West Virginia, which isn't a sentence I say often. So, Abby,
I'm excited for my first backyard brawl.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts as we wrap this up?
I just, I'm ready for seasons to start.
All right. Yes, I am too. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and keep tuning in to the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel. Take care.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed it on Apple Podcasts, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. For 6 months of digital access to post-gazette.com for just $6, click the link down in the description.